Well, good morning, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. It is the 26th of April, 2021. Hard to believe that April's almost in the history books here. Last week's summary here again on a National Retail Federation calendar. So this big map is temperature trends versus last year. Here in the U.S., pretty cold. 4.7 degrees colder than last year. Number one coldest in over 36 years. So much below average on that front. 47% drier than a year ago. Driest in 7, ninth driest in 36 years. So below average national precip continues. Snowfall way up. We had a system go through the Rockies into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and New England. So again, that was pretty epic. 756% more. Not a lot of snow, but more than last year for sure. Most in 26 years. So big by April standards. Up in Canada, just a tad warmer than last year, but still below average. Europe, coldest in 4, still below average. Russia, 1.5 degrees colder than last year. Coldest in 4, below average across Russia, except warm in the southwest. China, again, warmest in 3 years. Australia, continuing their epically cold. They had their cold summer, now their cold fall. Coldest in 36 years down under. India, a bit warmer, but still below average for most of India. And Brazil, again, coldest in 8 years. Maps inset left are precip and temperature trends versus average. Another thing that's actually way down is tornadoes. Only 266 reported so far this year. Last year we had 579. Last year went on to be a below average season, so even though we had kind of a interesting start in April last year, this year not so much. So we're 36% below average for tornadoes across the U.S., 54% less than last year, and way down from the epic season of 2011. But if you notice that 2011 blue line, it can go, an outbreak can take us way up real fast, but not expecting 2011 here in 2021. So right now a not so active tornado season, kind of as expected. Part of that is just because we're dry. Obviously, if you're dry, you just don't have a ton of moisture to work with. Dry to drought phases across the U.S. is at a 21-plus year high. 65% of the country is still in D0, D4 dry to drought phases. This time last year, only 27% in historic lows in 2019. Just epically wet, obviously, in 2019 with only 12%. So way above average. We do expect this to expand into the heartland here as we go through the summer season here. So again, much, much drier. Good news, bad news, a little easier for farmers getting out in the fields, but again, going to be a drought concern as we go through the season. Part of that is just if we look at the ocean temperatures, this map is temperatures versus last year. We believe this just tells you more information than just looking at the straight up anomalies. And we see a lot of cold, so we're not officially in a La Nina anymore, but again, may go back into one here as we go through the summer, fall. But from a weather perspective, we certainly are. Again, much, much colder ocean temperatures versus a year ago. So there's nothing similar at all really about this weather pattern versus a year ago. Here in the U.S., year to date, we're driest in 9 years. Canada, driest in 20 years. Over in China, driest in 10 years. Nepal, they've had some extreme drought and fires. Northern India, driest in 12 years. Wet spot, we'd say down Southeast Asia, Philippines, Australia, wettest in 10 years. World overall, we're trending the driest in 10 years so far, year to date, along with some cooler trends on a global scale. Looking at this week, week ending 2 May here, 1.3 degrees warmer than last year. So warmest in 14 years. We're going to get a sizable heat wave here midweek, 80s, probably our first 80s here in the Northeast. So we're a little bit excited about that. Overall, the U.S. would be the third warmest in 36 years, so much above average national temperatures. Map inset left is trends versus last year. So much hotter in the east than last year when it was really, really cold, and much colder in the west this year, in part because of those cold oceans. Looking at precip, we're 16% drier than last year, least in 3 years, 15th least in 36 years. So on the dry side for the U.S. overall. Jumping ahead into early May here, hard to believe, 4.8 degrees warmer than last year, warmest in 3 years, 11th warmest in 36 years. So above average temperatures nationally. Last year, May started off as the coldest in decades, over 36 years. So very, very cold start last year. Not the case this year. 16% wetter than last year, 13th driest in 36 years, below average. A little misleading probably with that rain in the plains. Again, that'll be thunderstorm activity. So again, we'll see hit or miss, but that may be a little bit overdone in terms of precip here for next week. And if we look at the world aggregate overall here for the next 2 weeks, just summing up the 14-day forecast here, you can see warm in the U.S., still kind of cool up there in Canada, still pretty cold in Europe, getting warm across Siberia and Russia, and still mixed bag down under in Australia, where it's, again, their cool trends continue. And precip map versus averages inset left there. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we'll be back here this time next week.